All right, well, done the first week of teaching. The first time in about 8 years since I've been in the classroom. And I can say some things have changed, yet some things have stayed the same. So one thing that has changed is that the type of technology that the students are using these days. Now, I would actually say it's gotten a lot better. I can't say that this is a bad thing, but the thing to consider is I kind of wonder if it's the English classes or if it's the university system that hasn't kept a pace with the modern student and the modern needs of not just educational requirements, but of the workforce. So what sort of technology do I mean by that has changed? And I think this goes without saying that, hawthorns. 多少钱？
你看什么口味的，价格不一样。
糖葫芦。
这种的是6块，然后这种的也是6块，这种的15，这个13，然后这个是8块，这个6块，这个5块，这个11，然后这几个也是6块。
这是什么？这个
山药豆。
山药豆哦，这是豆，不是虫。
对，不是，养生的山药豆。
好。So the technology that I'm referring to is that, I mean, I think it goes without saying almost that AI has sort of taken over quite a bit, but it's not just AI, it's the type of technology, it's the ease with which people can copy and paste stuff. So for example, this week we had our first, what they call a diagnostic task. It was a writing task that these kids, and I call them kids only because they're like half the age that I am, and their job was to write just a paragraph, 180 words that included a topic sentence, some controlling ideas, or what you'd call sort of your main points, and that's it. That's all you had to do. But did they do that? Oh, by the way, happy Women's Day. The university gave out roses to all the women. They gave one to me because, well, I'm special. I'm a foreigner on campus. Now, 10 years ago, I might have been really offended by having someone use their cell phone or their computer or chatting with their friends in class to figure out the answer. But this time around, 10 years later, 10 years since I've arrived in China, I can almost say that it almost seems unreasonable to not use that technology that's available to you. And so what do I mean by that technology? Well, for example, during this writing test, I saw one kid copy-paste the answer from another document that he had already on his computer. I saw one kid chatting with his girlfriend on WeChat, and she sent him the essay. Another kid, she translated from Chinese that she typed into the translation device that she had on her cell phone, and then wrote it on paper. And then another one was checking his answer with DeepSeek. Okay, well, now, is this a bad thing? However, I understand the reason for not wanting them to use this type of technology, not only that in class, and then they also need to build up the skills of critical thinking, logical thinking or logical reasoning, and then not only that, forget about typing, do you know how to write? And as I've talked about on this channel before, it's a good idea to sit down with a pen and paper and write out whatever it is in your target language. So whether it's Chinese characters, noun and verb declensions, or simply English sentences, copying out a newspaper or a book or even your textbook. It slows you down, it gets you in contact with the language, you're writing it, you're seeing it, you're possibly reading it as well, and you're slowly thinking through what it is that you're actually writing. So writing, pen and paper, I think is still very useful to develop no matter which language you're studying. But that of course begs the question, then which type of technology should be allowed? And if it's so easy to use this stuff these days, why not just use it? I was thinking today, during today's classes, I told them don't use your cell phones and try your best to write this on your own. Don't rely on technology. But I was thinking, wouldn't it be better if we were talking about ChatGPT prompts, like prompt engineering, rather than how to write the letters on a page? Even with that argument, I can say that you still need to develop the logic and the comprehension, the critical ability to write not just a sentence in English, but a reasonable argument. Take, for instance, developing a topic sentence, or basically your thesis statement. What are you going to write about in your essay? Now, this seems quite easy to do, but I think as the ubiquity of information on the internet kind of proves, it's not always easy to create something that people not just want to read, but that they can read with ease. But reading with ease and developing a thesis statement or a topic sentence, I think are two different things. These kids only have to write one paragraph, 180 words. The topic sentence overrides or sort of oversees your entire essay. And the typical essay structure that I recall being taught and that we still teach at a lot of university courses is that you have your introductory paragraph, then body paragraphs 1, 2, and 3, and then a conclusion. 5 paragraphs. Nice and easy structure. And in your introductory paragraph, that's where you have your topic statement or your thesis statement that basically in one sentence says what your entire essay is about. I like coffee because it gives me energy, tastes great, and is a cheap way to keep motivated in the morning. 3 phrases, and basically I'll write an essay about the benefits of drinking coffee. However, what a lot of students will do is that they'll say, well, I like drinking coffee because it has several benefits. Now, that's a good starting point, but as I recall being told, and many of the textbooks that I have used have stated, is that having several benefits is still too general. You have to break it down and give a short, would you say a paraphrase of what you want to write. I like drinking coffee for its benefits, namely, it's cheap, it tastes great, and it keeps me motivated or keeps me energized in the morning. So let's say you got your topic sentence or your thesis statement. You've got your main idea, your topic that you're going to be writing about, then your controlling idea or the different details that you're going to develop throughout your essay. Do you need to write that entire essay yourself, or can you use a large language model to do it for you? And what's the difference? I know what you're going to say. It's not the same at all. Large language models are all trained on books that have been written before, words that have been written before, people who spent the time to develop their logic and their critical thinking and putting it into the written form. Now, one issue for the modern student, especially those who are studying another language, is that if you can think the idea in your native language, Chinese, for example, but then you can't put it into English because your grammar isn't so good. Is it a bad thing putting that text or that essay into a translation device and then dropping that into your essay answer for your essay response? You take that translation, you drop that into ChatGPT or DeepSeek or whatever, and then you have it correct your errors, your grammar errors, and even possibly fill out the argument a little bit more. What is better to know? How to write that type of essay? Or is it better to know how to make the technology to work to output such ideas and such essays? Now, it's easy for me to say, oh, well, you should learn the technology. Don't worry about writing pen and paper. But as I said before, writing on pen and paper, that's a good way to sort of slow yourself down and make you really think about what you're writing. The other issue is that, well, I mean, I speak on the other side of 20 years of education and a couple of degrees as well. Now, I don't want to be that type of old guy who says back in my day, because of course, back in my day, it was a lot different. I mean, I didn't write essays by hand. Writing essays by computer with what was proofreading and spell check even a thing just yet when Microsoft Word first came out? Maybe a little bit. Even still, 20 years later, since I started university, if I had the chance to use ChatGPT in my classes these days, to me today, it seems like a no-brainer. Why would I not? It's like saying no to spell check. But then this becomes an issue. Is it the technology that you have to learn, or is it the reasoning and the argumentation? Have you been able to figure it out in your own head to make sure that whatever it is that you're translating is going through the translation and ChatGPT and still makes sense? You might go, well, Steven, I think at this point, it's more important to develop the critical thinking and the logic, because no matter what type of tools you use, whether it's ChatGPT or translation, what ideas are you coming up with? Yeah, you like coffee. It's cheap. It tastes good. It keeps you motivated or energized. But so what? Why are you telling us this? All this leads to me to think that if anything, this technology has made the easy argument obsolete. It's almost not even worth saying, well, yeah, of course coffee has its benefits. Different people respond differently to different types of drinks. But where's the evidence? What's your point? Why would you tell me this? And this is actually, I was telling the students, one good way to come up with a topic statement or a topic sentence, if you have no idea how to sort of make this into a good argumentation, is to use the structure, I like this because blah, blah, blah. So this will be whatever topic you want to talk about. Then after the word because, you put the 3 short reasons. And that, I found, usually leads to a good argument. That is your opinion. I guess maybe that's the whole thing, is it's about developing your own opinion, developing your ability to think of your own ideas, to output them, to communicate them, and then make sure that they are worth communicating, because, again, I think the easy argument is obsolete these days. So overall, is it necessary to learn how to write an essay in a foreign language with pen and paper, or is it more important to learn how to use the tools that can get the job done even faster? More importantly, is the ability to think critically and develop a logical argument dependent on what language you're using and how you're being taught that language? Or is it more dependent on your overall upbringing? That is it just the university system that can teach you this? Or is it your other teachers, your friends, possibly even your parents? How much of this can you put on to other people before you yourself have to basically take responsibility for your own knowledge and your own logic and your own critical thinking? One thing to bear in mind with this argument, especially as it pertains to teaching at a university, is that think about when you were 20 years old or 18. A lot of the ideas you had, you probably thought were the greatest ideas since sliced bread. The issue is that you get older and you realize, wow, that idea, that was not so good. Which then, of course, goes back to the whole idea of like, how do you develop that ability to be critical about not just your own ideas, but other people's ideas as well, how to communicate that in a professional way, and develop your own ability to reason something out. So to DeepSeek or ChatGPT or AI your homework, yes or no? Or should you do this all by pen and paper? Should the university system return to pen and paper? No, I've seen their handwriting. Not gonna happen. Now, all that being said and done, the technology has changed, but what hasn't changed? Well, what hasn't changed is that there are some really good students and some really bad students. Not only that, usually the really bad students, they have some very clever ways of getting their homework done and thinking that the teacher doesn't see them copying answers. And it's at that point I have to kind of wonder, is there some sort of fiduciary responsibility wherein if they don't develop their ability to critical think or logic something out or reason something out, how much can the teacher actually make them do the work? I told all of my students in the first week, there's a Chinese saying, 师傅领进门，修行在个人. The teacher can take you to the doorstep, but you, the student, has to go through it on your own. Likewise with AI and ChatGPT and translation devices and everything, there's only so much that a teacher can do before you still have to develop that ability on your own. And again, I'm quite fortunate that I've made it to 20 years plus typical university age. And all that means is that I've seen how arguments are developed, I've understood it, and I've been able to develop my own critical reasoning and critical thinking abilities. Would I have been able to do that if I only relied on ChatGPT or other AI tools or other technology? I don't know. But who's the English teacher and who runs multi-billion-dollar companies? That's a good question. Anyway, self-deprecation aside, what else has stayed the same? Well, the typical split of the classrooms, that the girls are a little bit more harder working than the boys. However, I wonder, especially now that I've been in the country for so long, I wonder if some of the boys deliberately don't show that they work hard because of either friends or simply because they're going, if I stand out, then the teacher will ask me a question. Maybe they're confident in their English abilities on their own time, but in a classroom setting, maybe they don't have the same presentation skills that other people would have. By that I mean, it's one thing to embarrass yourself in front of your friends, but to do it in front of, a potential girlfriend, that's a different type of pressure. And that's something that, a lot of young Chinese students, especially because their high schools are so strict about relationships, that's another thing that they're learning and they're getting through in their first couple of years of university. So that much has stayed the same. What else has stayed the same? Well, cafeteria food seems to be kind of same. The stuff at my university is okay. The students have said it's not so good, but I'm like, it's cheap and edible, and honestly, it's kind of like other Chinese food I've had in other parts of Beijing. I can also say that WeChat's kind of stayed the same. And what else has really changed? Nothing much. WeChat is still being used. Alipay is still being used. They still need student cards. And of course, the one other thing that stayed the same at university, despite my age, the age of the students. They're all the same age. No matter what you do, first-year students are typically in their, late teens to early 20s. And you meet your graduate students, typically around 23, 24 possibly, and then your PhD students are usually pushing 30 already. So the student age, it stayed the same. All right, folks, I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. It tells the YouTube algo that I'm doing something right. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. I'll be posting more videos about my life and my adventures teaching English and learning Chinese here in Beijing, China. And lastly, what is something that you remember about your university life? And do you think it's changed very much? Has the university system kept a pace with the developments of technology, or is it lacking in some way? And I know the United States, people are going to say, oh, well, it's not so good and this and that. But let's just think about how all of the other opportunities that we have with the technology, the AI. I mean, do we need the university to introduce us to these ideas, or is self-learning, that is teaching ourselves how to do something, even more important these days and is supplemental to what's going on at the university? University for logic and reasoning, self-learning for technology development. What do you think? Let me know. I'd be interested in hearing you. Thanks for watching again. We'll do this again. Have a good one. Bye-bye.